Welcome to Detailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, helping you navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between.
Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from Cruise Control podcast. We are here with Kris Abens, who has one of the longest titles that I've ever heard, which is the Executive Vice President of Business Development and Marketing. And pretty much she does most of the stuff around there. We know that already. But so hi, Kris. Welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've known each other for a while, so this will be fun. But one of the things I want to know is just kind of fill us in on like what you do, who you are, and we'll kind of talk more about some of the, personal stuff, not personal, but some of the stuff from there too. Yeah, let's talk about your dating life, Kris. We're gonna go ahead and go into that. No.
At what age did you set your period?
Wow, yeah, there we go. That's funny.
I'm so sorry. So I'm Kris Abens. I'm one of the co-owners of You're Able, which is a business management software in this detailing space or the greater detailing space. And so that's what I do on a day-to-day. It's a family-owned and operated company, so I have the great privilege of being able to work with my dad and my brother, and now my cousin Taylor. A lot of nepotism there. But honestly, it's just been so much fun. People say that it's a bad idea to work with family, but I say it's not a bad idea if your family kicks ass. So We've been having such a blast with that, and that's what we've been up to for the past 5 years now, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, that's I was thinking about. I was trying to remember. So that would have been what, 2018, something like that, to the end of 2017, probably. Yeah. I remember having a conversation with your dad back then, and kind of getting, that was when you guys were still deep in initial development.
Oh yes,
all of that. So that's interesting. I think that the whole family thing and nepotism and all that is, I think if you set out, like your dad did this on purpose, right? Like that was kind of his goal, which is super cool. And I was telling Michelle yesterday that, my girls probably could have done a similar thing, but neither of them have any interest whatsoever in anything that I do. So,
yeah, my dad definitely made it more of like a real life thing. Like Kyle and I came up with the idea to do it. We worked together over at the previous pharmaceutical company that I was working for on a project over there. We ended up enjoying that project so much that we decided that maybe we could just work together and build systems like this. And initially, we just wanted to build it for just like entrepreneurs in general, because that was something that we were passionate about. My dad is actually the one who got us to pursue the detailing industry because he had a lot of consumer experience in that industry and felt that could be something that we make, a difference in. And when we brought that idea to him, he said, this isn't like a part-time job. You guys need to quit your jobs and we're going to do this for real. And so Kyle and I both quit our jobs and that's when we started it. So it's definitely not like a casual thing that we've been up to. It's been really serious. And, now we kind of see it as something that's like, potentially a family legacy that we're leaving behind, which is really cool.
Yeah, your dad probably just wanted he thought he was going to get free detailing products for all his cars. That was the intention.
Right? What he was in for.
Yeah, so I had him on one of my other podcasts, and he just has a really interesting story. And you guys as a family, I'm just really impressed with you guys as a family. I'm sure that everybody has challenges with working with family, for sure. But that's something that's with you guys. It's like you set out to do this, and it's cool that you and Kyle had the skill set. And because it's not like if your dad said, "Hey, I want to do this," and you guys want to do this, and then like it just didn't gel. But I think the skill sets between all of you are really well matched, and you guys have kicked ass in the last 5 years for sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think we all bring something a little bit different to the table, and that's been really helpful because obviously as a small company, you kind of do need people that specialize in different things because you guys are doing all the things. So it's really worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so you guys come and walk me through the initial idea and then how I'm assuming you then had to adapt it when we're talking about, because when when I first talked to your dad about it, we were like, well, what are you going to do? I was asking, are you going to do automotive? Are you going to do all service businesses? How do you do that? So I assume you had to actually almost custom build everything specifically to accommodate detailing, right?
Yeah. So backing up to when I was at that pharmaceutical company, the system that we built there kind of came out of just a lack of organization in this new part of the company that I was working for, and also a desire for Kyle to learn these new skills. So he was just working as a graphic designer at the company he was with, and he felt that that was kind of beneath him because he had started to teach himself programming and coding. And he just has like a really brilliant mind for those kinds of things. He's always been super creative like that. And so he wanted an opportunity to kind of put those skills to work. And I needed help to organize my team. And so that's why we collaborated on that initial project, which we were really just doing for fun. We made no money on it because my company claimed intellectual property.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
we're like, all right, well, like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, we just kind of did that on the side. But we worked so well together that that's why we decided to start working together on the, You're Able project. When we initially came out with like wanting to pursue detailing, you're exactly right. I remember having those early conversations of, do we want it to just be detailing, or are we pursuing other industries as well? And so our initial app that came out, which is no longer in existence, is You're Able Automotive. Because then we're going to have like You're Able whatever else, like plug in, whatever other industry there. And so I actually still have that app on my phone. It's like a relic. I have my You're Able Automotive. It's not functional at all, but I can't bring myself to delete it because it's just like, that's our origin story right there. And eventually it did just become You're Able, and we fully committed to this industry. We're certainly not taking other industries off the table, but it would probably all be within one app with just different, custom sets of preferences.
Yeah, because it's all modular, right?
Dedicated. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's funny because Michelle and I did an app for her on cake decorating. That's one of her big passions. So we did one of those. I mean, it had to be like iOS 7 or 8. Like and so I still have it on my phone, but like it won't run because it won't run on new iOS and all that. So yeah, I feel you there for sure. So if you had to, so you're fully committed to detailing, I know, but I assume from a growth standpoint, there's got to be something in the back of your mind where you're, looking at other service businesses, I would assume, or no?
Sorry, say that last portion of the question. It broke up just a little bit.
Yeah, we're breaking up just a little bit. We'll kind of fix this. But I was asking, so do you have from a long-term growth program, obviously detailing is a relatively small market. We're talking about 130,000 total in the United States. Somewhere in there, which I think it may be a little generous depending on how you define it. So, we're one of the things I'm doing with Detailers Roadmap and ABIT is this content creation, but we're also looking at, future planning and future proofing and systems and all that kind of stuff. Is that something kind of that you guys have in the back of your mind as Kyle is like developing, hey, if we modularize this, all of these different aspects, then it makes it easier to do that?
Yeah, already we do have certain companies outside of the automotive industry using it just because there is a lot of customization and flexibility with it as it is, that other industries can make it work. So it's definitely, not something that we're closed off to at all. But I think our philosophy when it comes to just developing and really tackling any project is we would rather, be narrow and very deep rather than spread ourselves too thin across too many industries. I think a lot of other software programs in like the general service industry have kind of fallen victim to that. And we know about it because there are users now. And oftentimes they're coming to us saying, I was using XYZ program before, but it just wasn't really great for this industry. So we really like the fact that we can say we're trying to make an app that's perfect for this industry, and we're not going to stop until we get there. And then if we get there, perfection feels like an impossible dream at this point. But if we get to a point where we feel really satisfied with it, then that's the point where we might explore adding in, additional preferences for other industries.
Right. Well, you can't, you're not doing better than Microsoft and Apple, who they iterate their software once a year at the least. And that's just the nature of apps and software, and building those tools. So, do you consider, so would this be considered a CMS or CMR, customer, or CRM, which is customer relation management tool? How do you define what your able really is? Or maybe you just don't define it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we often get called a CRM, which is kind of like, I would say that's kind of a catch-all. And people know what you mean when you say that. But we're a bit more than that. I would say we're not fully robust like an actual CRM platform. We don't have all of that functionality, but we have a lot of, or we have like a little of everything, is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to create a central hub. So then rather than everybody having 10 different platforms that they're using and having to do like the double data entry and all of these different things, we want just one central place to do that. So really we would just describe ourselves as just a business management app. It handles, obviously the CRM side of things, but also, the internal ops, managing your employees' time and compensation, managing your internal schedule, online booking, payment processing, accounting, all the different things. So just generally business management software is what we go for.
Yeah. And how many iterations are you guys into now? I mean, general, obviously you're probably iterating, or updating it once a month.
We update it a lot. We're currently on version 8.4.
Wow.
But I mean, within all of those, it's 8.0.0, 8.0.1, 8.0.2. So you can imagine there's so many updates, and that's been, I would say, a little bit of a double-edged sword, because some people love it because it's like, wow, they're really listening. They're rolling out all these updates. Other people are like, stop updating it. I have to keep updating my app. So I think that we would prefer to err on the side of updating too much than not updating enough.
Yeah, because for you, the problem, and if anybody listening has never dealt with software, because one of my original business was web development, app development, and custom database development. So,
really?
So that's kind of it. And so I have a degree in exercise physiology and a degree in business. But then I ended up kind of taking this path towards owning a web development company and all that. But if you're listening, if you've never really understood, like, this stuff just doesn't appear by magic, right? Like, these updates, they kind of feel like they do. But the challenge, and for all of you, is you're probably more of the communicative side in terms of how do you communicate these things. But, from Kyle and anybody else that's programming, it's like, how do we add this without breaking this? And then how do we make these changes without really, messing with the end user, right?
Yeah, and that's the challenge with everything. Obviously I'm on more of the customer facing side, so I'm actually interacting with our users, and that's where we're getting all of our ideas for these updates. We're not the ones using it, our users are. So we want to make sure that we're really tapping into what they're looking for and what would really help them on a day-to-day. And then we bring all these ideas to Kyle, and then, Kyle has to kind of parse through them and think like, no, that wouldn't work because of XYZ. Yes, we can do that, but it needs to be built this way. Like, it's all so technical. There's so much thought that goes into every single one of these updates, even the little tiny ones. There's so much thought that goes into it. So I never really had an appreciation for that, outside of the past 5 years, because I've never experienced that. I just updated my app and it was great.
Right.
And now I really see behind the curtain, and it is a lot of work.
Yeah, because the user interface alone has got to be a huge pain in the ass to just figure out, hey, where do we put this? Like, we know everybody wants this new thing, but where do we put it so that it makes sense? And
that's been a real challenge too, because we pride ourselves on having a very good looking app, really clean interface. And Kyle really specializes in the user interface, which we're so lucky to have, because I think that makes a world of a difference. Because at the end of the day, people want to use an app that looks cool, like they don't want to use an app that looks like it was made in the 1990s. And so Kyle has done an amazing job with that. But yeah, every single update we add in, we really mull over where this can go, how we can execute it in a really clean way so that it doesn't interfere with like the cleanness of the interface.
Yeah. And how do you how do you know what to add? Just curious.
Just listening to our users. We have our live chat that we have out on, You're Able, which is literally like letting our users text us with whatever question they might have. This was a big debate when we first started Durable, because it was one of those things where it's like, you know what? We can't put the genie back in the bottle once we release this. So we need to make a decision. Do we want to commit to this or no? And ultimately, we decided to commit to that. And it's been a blessing and a curse, but it's definitely been more of a blessing, I would say. I think that's something that has really set us apart. People really feel part of our, community. They feel like we are approachable. They can ask us questions. They can give feedback. They can give suggestions for new features, which is ultimately what we wanted from that. So we really gauge a lot off of what's coming through in the live chat or to, email, however people are meeting with us. And then I'm also meeting with people all day, every day, and I write down any suggestions that they have. And then once a week, we have an internal team meeting and we go over all the suggestions that we got the previous week. And we start to prioritize, which things do we feel would impact the largest number of people in our user group? Which things are like absolute need to have, we got to execute quickly? Which things are bugs that need to be fixed quickly? And then we kind of just build our updates off of that. We try to include like a big change once, I don't know what you call it, once an update number, like our 8.0.0 or 7.0.0, like those will typically be big changes.
Yeah.
We'll roll out like a big new feature with that. And then all the ones in between will be kind of the little updates throughout that time period. So that's generally how we structure it.
Yeah, that's common, right, in software. iOS 14, iOS 15, and then you have 0.12, 0.17, point whatever. So that's kind of how, that's cool that you guys do that. And you have a major team of 4. And I met your cousin, what's her name again? I'm sorry.
Taylor.
I met Taylor at SEMA, I think, is when we met. Yeah, you guys make a great team. And I'm sure you keep your father in line along the way, or do your best. So hey, I'm curious. So, we've been friends for a long time. I mean, with relative long time. And I'm, truth be told, Kris has referred to me as one of her industry dads. I think you've got several, but so it's been fun to kind of see you, because I've got, my daughters are 24 and 25, so they're not that much younger than you. So, but tell me about like kind of how do we get to know you a little bit better as a person? Because obviously you're the face of the brand for the most part. You do most of the forward-facing communication. Your dad does a bunch too, but I mean, that's kind of, as your marketing and all that. So what kind of things would we be interested in knowing about you? Because I know a few, but I'll see what you think.
Oh boy, I don't know where to begin. I mean, I would say this industry has fundamentally changed me from a person that honestly didn't care that much about cars. I've always liked my dad's cool cars, but it was never something like that I had a big interest in until this industry. I don't know what it's been. It's really worn me down over the past couple years. But now I would consider myself a car girl. I have officially converted, and I was able to purchase my first cool car down in my garage right now, which is my Porsche, and there's no turning back. I can never sell that car. I know everybody says that about their first car, but I just can't imagine ever getting rid of that thing.
Well, especially when you buy something that is that cool. Like I didn't have any love for the 84 Honda Civic that I owned first, so I'm not, but I do have this Cobra that I built that literally does not get driven. It's like a $60,000 piece of art that sits in my garage. So I think about selling it all the time, and then I realize that, I'm not sure if I could do that. But so what was that process? So the detailing industry ruined me and my, I've always kind of had this eye, but like you can't go to car shows anymore, I assume, because all you see is swirls and scratches and imperfections and stuff.
This has been a point of contention between me and my boyfriend. If he's listening, that's going to be hilarious. But when I first started dating him, he's got a cool car too. He's got a BMW M4. He loves it. And he's never gotten his car ceramic coated or anything. And immediately when my dad sees it, he comes out and he goes, "Look at that paint. Do you see all these scratches? See all these micro scratches? Have you been taking this to your car wash?" And he starts interrogating him. And I'm like, oh my God. My dad's like, "We're going to get you set up with a local detailer. Everything will be fine." So it's definitely impacted our family in a real way.
That's funny. I used to have this rule, and I'll tell you this story, but and how my daughters have completely disappointed me. But so out here, people drive these Subaru Outbacks, which Subaru Outbacks are only,
Montana?
yes, I don't know. It's like a cheap all-wheel drive car, but they're horrendous. First of all, sorry to anybody listening that has one, but you're wrong. You need to sell it. And they're always in my way. They're the ones that are going like 45 and a 70. And I'm like, what time did you leave the house? How do you have this much time to drive this slow to get, because it's like 20 miles to town for us. But I used to tell the girls, I'm like, when you start dating, you need to ask them what they drive. Like that's so they, because if they drive a Subaru Outback, they're not picking you up at my house. We'll have to they have to park in the road. I don't know. So that was that whole jet. So fast forward to my oldest buying her first new car. She bought multiple cars since before that, but she buys a Subaru Forester, I think. I don't. It's like, I'm like, of all the things you could do in your life to disappoint me, this one is a beat. So she
one job.
I know, like, right. You know, there's so many other vehicles to choose from. Even in that category, it's like RAV4. You've got you got all these different cars you could choose from, and so she did a Subaru. So I like you better as my industry daughter than them. So I'll let them listen to this because you bought a Porsche.
Oh, no.
I mean, is that something? So that transition happened right away. So what did you drive before the Porsche?
You know what? I had my trusty Steve.
Hopefully it's not a Subaru Outback.
It was not a Subaru Outback, though. It was a Volkswagen Golf. We keep a German in this family.
Yeah. Even the boyfriend.
I loved that car. Yes. Yep. And then obviously my dad with all of the Audis. We love the German engineers. But yeah, so I had a Volkswagen Golf. I love that car. I actually lucked out. I just traded that in, and now I have a Bronco stacked in my driveway as well. I was able to trade in my Volkswagen Golf because there was a leak in the sunroof, and I went out to my car one morning. The entire inside of my car was absolutely soaked.
Oh,
and I was like, oh my God, it was like a window open or something because it had rained the night before. Everything was closed, but there was literal puddles. My cup holders were filled with water. And I was like,
Jeez.
Oh my God. So I brought it to the Volkswagen dealer to have them take a look and fix it. While I was there, popped over to the Ford dealership next door because there was a Bronco out front, and I've been having my eyes on a Bronco, and asked if it was for sale. They said yes, and I bought it and drove away in that instead. Actually, I did get in a car accident in the Volkswagen, my first and only car accident. I talk about it like it's this traumatic thing. I was literally going maybe 6 miles an hour. It wasn't anything, but it was in the snow, and the backside of my neighborhood is a bit of a hill, and so I was coming down the hill very slow, and I didn't realize the ground was just a sheet of ice, and my little Volkswagen tires, they had nothing on this ice, and so I hit the brakes and I'm just sliding, and so naturally I start panicking. Eventually I run into a pole to stop myself because if I kept going down the hill, then I'm going towards the highway. I'm not trying to get on the highway.
And faster.
Exactly. So I ran myself into a pole, and I called my dad immediately crying, and he's like, oh my God, like, did the airbags come out? And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, can you back out? And I'm like, I haven't tried yet. Like, I didn't even think that I could move the car. I don't know why I was like so dramatic in this moment. And anyway, I was able to back out. There was almost no damage on the car whatsoever.
Nice.
But because of that, I have been wanting to get more of a utility car because the Volkswagen was my winter car.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that Bronco out front at the Ford dealership, I was like, I need to have it. And luckily it had just come on the lot. It was very lightly used. It had 7,000 miles or something on it. And yeah, I bought it that day and I drove away in that instead of the Volkswagen.
Nice. So did you get the Sport or you get the real one?
I got the regular one. I got the Outer Banks edition of
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Still haven't had a chance to take the top down yet, but I'm excited. The weather is just starting to heat up now, so hopefully soon I'll be able to take the top down.
Well, next thing we'll have you out here so we can go. We're going to Moab in a couple of weeks with Michelle's Sugar Eye Jeep, so we'll have to get you out and put some. Does it have big tires and all that stuff on it, or kind of just?
It regular tires on it, and that's been one of the upgrades that I want to get done is get some big beefy tires on there because that just looks cool, and get it raised and get a subwoofer. I have so many things that I want to do in that car.
That's awesome. You've been, I mean, that's super cool. One thing, so we bought this 2021 Grand Cherokee and the tires are horrendous. Like we live in a similar, our snow lasts quite a bit longer than you guys, but they were terrible on the snow. So we ended up buying another set of tires. So you can't, if you get mud tires, get a second set for the winter, get your winter tires. Cause those things are like, they get hard as a rock when they get cold. Like Michelle's Jeep is like literally like being on ice skates with her mud tires. Yeah. So we don't really even drive it on those tires. We have all terrains to put on it too, but yeah. So there's my little fatherly car advice for you. Budget for mud tires for the good weather, and then get a set of better tires. Of course, on ice, you can't really do much anyway. No, you're just at the mercy of gravity and inertia at that point.
Not a fan of that.
Well, that's awesome that you got the Bronco. So you're a car girl for sure. You do some other cool stuff, right? Like you started doing races, half marathons, right? Have you done a full yet? Tell me about that journey.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been, an athlete. I was a 6-sport athlete in high school and then I played lacrosse in college. So athletics has always been kind of part of me. And after college, I needed something to stay competitive with. Like, I feel like once an athlete, always an athlete. So running was a natural thing for me to get into. It was something that, I had a knack for. So I actually started with a full marathon before I ever did the marathon. And that was, you know what? I'm glad I did it. I checked it off the list. I have no desire to do another one. It was hard. It's just a lot of time to commit to that. Because when you're going to be going that kind of distance, then you need to put in a lot of training days going long distances. And so you're dedicating like 3 hours to training every day. I mean, not every day, but like multiple times a week. Yeah. And it definitely wears you out for sure. But half marathons are super fun. I think that's so much more of like a doable distance. It's like long enough to still feel like you're doing something hard, but short enough to feel like, yeah, I could do that again. And I actually found this race program called Vacation Races. And it is half marathons all around the world, but in the United States, they're hosted at national parks.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's really, really cool. I did 2 last year, one at Zion National Park, which I'm actually going back out to Zion in just a couple of weeks for vacation because I love it out there so much. And then another one at Yosemite. And both of those were so beautiful. And it's just, those are cool races because like half the experience of it is just like the views that you're getting. It's a beautiful area and the community is super cool and they're pretty low-key races. So those have been.
Well, there's another national park nearby here, right? And, Yellowstone, we're 100 miles from Yellowstone. So if there's a Yellowstone race, you need to make sure so if there's a Yellowstone race, you got a place to stay. Chris has actually been to the house. When they were driving cross country, Chris and Michael will stop by the house. But, so you're more than welcome. If it's just a half, Michelle and I would maybe think about doing one with you. We've done a ton of halves, and then we did 2 fulls, and we did one.
We did 2.
Yeah, we did one here at altitude, which is 4,500 feet, and that was hard. And we're slow, like we're like 5 hours. That's
better than not doing it at all. So
yeah, and then we went down. We trained. What was cool is we trained here and then went down and did. There's one April 19th every year for the Oklahoma City bombing in Oklahoma City, and so we went down and did the memorial run for that. And the lungs were, we could have run all day, but then the rest of our body, and it rained so much that it was pouring so hard that we were literally laughing as we were running because it was so ludicrous that we were even out there and it was like 42 degrees. We both got hypothermia. It was miserable. So yeah, I highly recommend doing one if you can make it work, because it's like you said, it's that bucket list. Like you can say, there's all these things that you can check off, as a person. And so those, in one of my social profiles, I said, I'm living my bucket list. Yeah. So like over time, I've tried to, and you're young enough that you can do this too, or over time, I've started to run out of bucket list things and get to add new ones. Right. And so that's, I highly recommend doing it once if you can make it work. I'm not built for running. So I'm top heavy, more muscular up top. I got skinny legs, no matter how much I train them. So I T-band issues, but yeah, so our girls on a half day, they would leave at 7 a.m. and get on the bus. We would leave to go do our long run. They would get home at 2 p.m. or 1:30 p.m. and we were just now getting home from our run. Yeah. It's like 18, 19 miles and it's
a lot of dedication to train for those, but definitely I have no regrets with that. And I was proud of my training for that. I did the one in Philly and I was, super proud of my time for that. And we'll see if I do another one. At the very least, I tell my parents the only motivating factor for doing another one is because permanently etched into my brain from that experience was the look of absolute pride on my parents' faces when I ran by them. And like, oh my God, I could close my eyes and see their faces. And that makes me want to do it all over again because that was like so rewarding to see like how excited they were. And yeah, I would do it 100 times over.
I'm sure you're much faster than me. One of on these races, you have all these people that are on the side of the road. And they'll hold up signs and all that. I still remember there was like this little 5-year-old kid that had a sign that said, "Keep going, toenails are for pussies."
Signs are hilarious. People are creative out there.
Yeah. So yeah, I highly recommend if you're going to, at least to do I mean, obviously like you, I was never really much of an athlete, but I've worked out and, that's kind of a major part of my life. But yeah, I highly recommend doing something like that. And start with a 5K or 10K. Michelle keeps signing us up for these Wonder Woman, Superman races. Just so they're like they're fun runs, but they're like virtual fun runs. Basically, she signs up because she wants the little Wonder Woman medal and all that Wonder Woman stuff that she loves for sure. So
even harder than a marathon, I did a ruck walk. So like,
oh yeah,
pack. This was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I would do marathon after marathon instead of doing another one of these. It was supposed to be a 52-mile ruck walk.
Wow.
So like 2 marathons put together. Oh my God, I was not prepared for this. I've never been broken by a race more than this. Like at least with the marathon, that you're going to be done like in the vicinity of 4 hours. Like, you're going to dedicate that amount of time and then you're chilling for the rest of the day. This ruck walk, we started at 4 p.m. On one day. It didn't finish until like noon the next day. So you
walked all night. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. It was terrible. I was sobbing by the end of it. I didn't even know why I was crying. I was just like so emotionally broken by that race.
I've done short rucks, and I had a friend of mine that came and did my other podcast, and he does this thing called Irreverent Warriors. Andrew Pereira is another guy that's down in Texas. He's another detailer. And so they walk as a support for like PTSD and all that. So they get these guys and they do these rucks. And so we did one. I did a 13-mile one here. And I don't know if you're experienced, but half the guys had backpacks full of beer and we're walking and they're drinking. And I'm like, and they were slow. So I don't know what kind of group I went with, but
that probably would have made it maybe more fun. I definitely had snacks in my pack. It's like eating fruit snacks and cookies.
How much weight did you put in your pack?
So they didn't have any weight requirements. I would say my pack was like maybe 20 pounds. It wasn't anything crazy. I just had like the supplies that I needed to get through. All your water has to be in there. Because you're just kind of on your own out there. They don't have like support staff or anything. And obviously you're walking through the night. So it was really just whatever I needed to survive during that time. And that is definitely one where I was like, I'm doing it for the freaking medal at the end of this. and then get this, I get to the finish line. They actually didn't even have a finish line. It just like ended arbitrarily at this like bar. And And so I run through the finish. The last mile I ran because I was like, I need this to be done. And I was like sobbing. And I get to the end and there's like the hostess at the bar. It's like an outdoor bar. I'm sobbing. And I go up to the hostess and I say, am I done? And she was like, I don't know. What are you talking about? She had no idea.
Oh my God.
I'm like sobbing and sweating at this lady, asking her if I'm done. And she had no idea what I was talking about. So that was an experience, but I eventually did get a medal.
Nice. Yeah, that's a little anticlimactic, right? to be finished and not have to. Yeah, that's 20 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but and the military people, my daughter-in-law is actually in the Army, and they do and she's about your size, probably small, on the smaller side, and they'll do like 60 pounds. I'm like, this is like 50% of your body weight. That's freaking insane. So
Now they're breaking records.
So how does that kind of stuff, being an athlete, kind of doing this fitness stuff, how does that feed into what you do kind of on a daily basis in your life? Because it's all of that stuff is super important, right? Like you have to have balance and hobbies and fitness. I mean, give up everything else and be fit and your life will be better. But how does that kind of feed into, whether it's stress management or attitude or energy or any of that stuff? How does that fit in?
All of the above. Definitely, there's periods of time. I actually recently had one because I had a small injury that was keeping me from, doing any heavy lifting or anything like that. And without working out, I get stressed so much more easily. It's crazy how I feel like people say it, but people don't believe it, that exercise is like medicine. And without it, your body just doesn't regulate the same way, at least for me. Maybe people are different, but definitely for stress management, that's been huge. But I think just being an athlete, you learn so many skills through just playing sports, learning to work with other people, learning to be, dedicated and disciplined, learning to do the things that you don't really want to do, but need to get done. There's just a lot of things that it applies to in terms of just work ethic. And yeah, I'm just very lucky that athletics was such a big part of my life. And that's definitely something that one day when I have kids, I hope that they're really invested in sports too, because I think there's just so many benefits to getting involved and even just working out, moving your body around.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm open to have an influence on. I've been trying for all these years to have an influence on the industry because there's it's like any other job, right? That's a job that's physical in nature, but yet that doesn't, the physicality of the job doesn't necessarily help you to be more fit. And so it's this dichotomy of I'm too damn tired to work out, but I know I need to work out. And so hopefully, people like yourself can be, and me and tons of other people.
Have you seen that documentary on Netflix called Stutz?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I highly recommend. It's, I think he's a psychiatrist. He's a therapist of some kind. And Jonah Hill created the documentary because it's his therapist.
Oh, wow.
He's just this incredible guy. He's, been a therapist forever and ever. And he wanted to create a documentary just kind of talking about the types of things that he preaches. And one of the first things he does with his clients is he draws out this little pyramid. I forget what he calls it, but the bottom level of the pyramid, the base of the pyramid is you need to get your body. You need to exercise because that, if you're feeling depressed or if you're feeling stuck in something, so often exercise just really loosens up what's going on there and gets you just kind of motivated and excited about your life again. And so that's the first thing that he starts people out with is exercising. Get your body right first, and then we can build on that afterwards. And so I think there's actual science behind it. I don't personally know the actual science, but I anecdotally, I absolutely believe in it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't, so people don't realize you've got dopamine and epinephrine and norepinephrine and all these chemicals that I do these
Wait, what am I talking about? You're actually a physio.
No, I've never seen that, and that's interesting because Jonah Hill, I mean, how much weight he lost? 120 pounds. He was a huge guy, and now he's He's kind of a weird looking skinny guy though. Like you have to kind of wrap your mind around the fact that he used to be super heavy and he's not. But yeah, that's interesting that he would take that on. But yeah, I mean, the benefits of exercise, it's hard because it sucks to get started. It sucks doing it. I do these cold plunges and I keep saying that, I borrow from Rogan uses this phrase, but he's like, yeah, it reminds me to stop being a little bitch every day. We do the cold plunge and Michelle actually does them now too, but it's those things that you don't necessarily want to do, but it all the chemical nature and all that, but the emotional component of doing what you don't necessarily want to do, because that feeds into your ability to run your business, the ability to be there for your family, the ability to be, present and all that.
Yeah, and I think so much confidence gets built off of just doing things that you didn't think you could do, like with any of the races, you go into it and you're like, oh my God, like I can't run that far or I can't run that fast. And then you do it and you're like, I can do anything. Like that's how it's been for me. It's just such a confidence builder. I actually used to do adult gymnastics classes. I'm not a gymnast. I mean, like everybody was a gymnast when they were like 4 years old. So like,
yeah. Tumbling, right? Yeah.
But I signed up for these adult gymnastics classes and I can't tell you how much confidence I gained from every single class there, because we would go into it and the coach would be like, all right, you're going to do a back handspring today. And I'm like, I will break my neck if I try to do a back handspring. And then I do it and I'm like, oh my God,
that's awesome. Yeah.
There's nothing I can't do. But I think that there's just people, dedicating themselves to trying to do things that they don't think they can do. I think people are more able to do things than they think they are. You know what I mean? And I think if you just try, there's just so much confidence that can be pulled from experiences like that.
Yeah, and especially as you get older, I've literally always wanted to learn how to do a back handspring, and I've gotten as far as handstands and all that, and I'm 50, and so like,
You don't look a day over 32.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Not true, but I appreciate you saying that. It's the lighting. I've got all this flatter filter type lighting, but but no, that's something like I would love to have learned how to do this. I've got two friends that are acro athletes, and they taught Michelle and I how to do some of those moves, and I've got all that stuff.
We did those at the gymnastics class too, like the partner acro stuff.
Yeah, you can do handstands and stuff, right?
Yeah, although honestly, I haven't done one. We'll see. Maybe I'll break my neck. I don't know.
There you go. Well, that's I love the idea of doing things that you don't necessarily feel comfortable with. Have you always kind of had the confidence because like you spend all day doing this, right? Like talking to people and all that. Is that something that you've always kind of had as part of your personality?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lot like my dad in that way. He's extremely social. He's like 10 times more social than me. Like anytime we go to, SEMA or anything, SEMA is a particularly overwhelming one. Oh my God. By the end of the day, I'm like, my introvert batteries have been absolutely out. Like I need to go into isolation for like 72 hours.
Yep.
He gets absolutely energized by that. So I do get a little bit of that from him. And, I love interacting with people. And one of our big goals with You're Able was to be kind of bring more of the human aspect into business. Like we're not just some, software company. Here's the software. Don't talk to us. We want it to feel like a community, and we call it the You're Able family. And I think that people really feel that, like they feel like they're part of something. And I think that that's bode really well for us, and something that we definitely want to keep providing. And it means the world to me too, because I just like interacting with people. I like connecting with people. And now we've gotten to do the Your Story series.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with those?
Yep, I've seen a bunch of them.
Yeah. So the Your Stories is kind of like a passion project that we're doing now. And it's basically mini documentaries that we film for some of our users that have been with us for a while. So we travel all over the country with an actual film crew that we have right here in Philly. Those guys are amazing, so passionate and so talented. And we shoot these documentaries free of cost for, the person that we're shooting for. Rather costly for us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not cheap for sure.
Yeah. It's something that we just feel really passionately about. It's really fun to get to know our users on like a really personal level. We're spending a ton of time with them. We're having them over for dinner to meet everyone. We're spending the whole day, maybe multiple days shooting with them. meeting their families, and just getting to hear their story. Because everybody does have a story, like
100%.
that's the beautiful thing about life. And there's so many things that you can learn from the people around you. And so that's been such a rewarding project for us.
That's been a really cool thing to see over the years that we didn't really have, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or whatever, is that how this content creation and marketing can meld into telling people stories and to kind of highlighting customers and those kind of things that really wasn't done in a more personal way. Because I've seen several of those, and the way that it's shot is great. The way that you guys present the story is awesome. And it gives people an opportunity to shine when they, most detail shops are not going to have the local news station come and shoot them and interview them and all that. So being able to have that highlighted and see that content and be able to share it and those kind of things, that's got to be super cool for them.
For sure. Yeah, definitely intimidating. It can be kind of scary to get in front of the camera like that. But I think that especially the film guys, they make people feel so comfortable. So for the most part, it's very carefree.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten so used to just being in front of the camera. It's just, I get sick of looking at my own face, especially thanks to all the selfies that I took over the years. I pretty much stopped taking selfies because
you're great at taking them.
Yeah, I got a long arm, so I can get lots of people in. My record's like 59 people or something like that. And without a selfie, people are like, you need a selfie stick. I'm like, look how long my arm is. I don't need a selfie stick.
My God, imagine what you'd accomplish with a.
I know, right? Well, we did a contest one year, and we took 600 and something selfies at SEMA in the 4 days, and that was one selfie per person. So like we didn't take multiple pictures or all that. I got home, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of my face, and I got really sick of seeing my face. But yeah, that was a lot of pictures. So tell me, I'm interested because I know what Your Able does kind of in general, but walk me through like someone that may not even know that these tools exist. First of all, Your Able exists and kind of you guys are in your own level. There are, like you said, there's, off the shelf stuff and all that. And there's a couple other ones in this space, but I haven't seen not only a family company that is as good at doing what you do. It's freaking amazing. And I love it. But the software itself and the app is amazing. Walk me through, and this isn't we're not doing a sales pitch thing. I just want to tell people what it is that Your Able can do for your average small business, detailing business.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, it's like a business management app. So it's really just designed to bring everything into just one app, so you don't have to mess around with a bunch of different things. Because what we noticed when we initially came into this industry is like, that you're using this for payment processing, this for accounting, this for your CRM, this for invoicing, and it was kind of just all over the place. And then they were sort of duct taping it together, but there really wasn't a lot of communication between those things. And so it just led to a bunch of double data entry with everything.
That's if they're entering data at all. That's right.
Converted a good amount of people from pen and paper. And at the very least, if you are a pen and paper person out there, you really can't put a value on a software system. The automation alone will save you so much time and money. And really it is about the time. That's been a big motivating factor for us, is to try to give you back your time. Get out of the shop, get back home and spend time with your families, or spend less time working in your business and more time working on your business. How can you scale? How can you grow? And so that's a lot of the stuff that we're rolling out with Your Able, is just in an effort to try to free up more time for people. So that's been a big goal. But when it comes to using Your Able, a big aspect of it is scheduling. That's a huge thing. Communicating with your customers, reminding them of their appointments. Obviously, payment processing is a huge one as well. Being able to take payments directly through there. Inventory management is a big one. Employee management, we manage their, compensation structure, and their schedules as well. So a little bit of everything. I could spend hours and hours talking about all the different things that it does, and it's obviously growing by the day. We're rolling out updates on like a bi-weekly basis, just all new ideas and new features based on, feedback that we've gotten. I don't think we'll ever make everybody happy, but we're pretty satisfied with where it's at right now.
Yeah, and you guys have a follow-up component, right? Like that's a big, you guys just rolled that out. That's a relatively new, I mean, it's been kind of present, but you guys have expanded on that a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah, so we've always had what we call long-term reminders, which has been that was a huge thing from the beginning because so much of the industry was like hyper-focused on customer acquisition, constantly new. And then they have all of these customers that they've done work with that they weren't even reaching out to. And so we wanted to build a system that would reach out to those. That is a gold mine of people that you have there. Those are people that have already expressed interest in your services because they've had those services.
Right.
So it's like that's the best customer base that you could ask for. So yeah, we rolled out pretty early on the long-term reminders that allow you to, ping those customers after their service has been completed. And that's a huge one. But yeah, we've expanded on that quite a bit. With just automated follow-ups for lots of other aspects in there. Plus, we rolled out very recently a new feature called Workflows, which is really just a way to automate almost everything. Because we wanted to give people the opportunity to use more features without having to remember to use the features, because that was like a big thing. They were like, oh, like I forgot to use that, or, like, oh, I forgot that was there. And now it's like, okay, build out your perfect process and let your able do that for you. And so that's been a really fun thing to roll out, and people have been loving that.
Yeah, because that workflow thing, I mean, that's something that we do on the internet marketing side all the time, right? Like someone clicks on something, then they get into a funnel, and then that sends them emails and all these things. And I think there's tens of billions, probably tens of millions, billions would be a little bit of a stretch, but there's millions of dollars that are being left on the table by the detailing industry because they suck at follow-up. Like even the best shops, like I worked for G-Technic, the coating company, and I'd be like, well, how are you scheduling these maintenance washes for all your customers? You're like, we don't wash cars. That was the whole, detailing ego thing. I'm like, you do know that you can charge $250, $300 for a coated car. And now, and they're like, oh really? I'm like,
business name at the top of their minds. And then they're
absolutely.
Like, hey, I just bought another car. Maybe I'll bring that in.
We're talking about funnels. So basically, you would do a coating on a car, and then then your automations or workflows that allow you to put them into this workflow to remind them for maintenance washes and follow-ups. And for most coating companies, in order to maintain their warranty or guarantee, they have to come in at least once a year or once every 6 months, right? So that's
a big use for those long-term reminders. And then we even allow people to link up to their what's called the virtual shop, which is our platform for online booking. So then rather than having to just tell the customer, hey, you got to book your service, you can say, hey, use the link below to book your service. And it would link them right to that in the virtual shop. They select it, they book it. And then the business, they didn't do anything. The system followed up. They linked them to the service they need to book. The customer booked. And now that job is just showing up in their calendar. And then they're, just good to go from there. So that's been a real handy feature that I'm happy to see more and more of our users are tapping into. Obviously it requires some upfront work, and that often turns a lot of people off because like, oh my God, I have to write, what I want to say in each of these emails. But it's like, you know what? It's a once and done. Get it set up and let that system run for years for you. It's absolutely worth it.
Yeah. If you spend eight hours, let's say, doing it, which would be kind of a long time, and you make, $200,000 out of it, that's a pretty good hourly rate.
I would say so.
To invest the time in doing that. So that's the follow-up stuff has got to be super important to do that. And it also is able then, so you guys work with, in full disclosure, Detailer's Roadmap. You guys work with Detailer's Roadmap, and then Detailer's Roadmap customers actually get kind of a little bit of an in with your able, but everything's plug and play. You can actually integrate your able into the website for booking and all that. Right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. We have so many people that are using Detailer's Roadmap, and I love when I hear that because I'm like, great, they can link the virtual shop right to your website.
Right. Yeah, so that makes that all easier. So it's just tools. I mean, it's efficiency, it's tools, and it's, God, it's so much money to leave on the table. And, as far as like your monthly fees and subscription and all that, it's not really that much. It's not, I mean, when you
Yeah, we tried to keep the prices pretty reasonable because we wanted this, we didn't want our upper plans like the Pro and the Enterprise to be something that was like untouchable by, the owner operator, because quite honestly, so many of our users are owner operator.
Yeah.
And those are the people that really need those, upper level features because they don't have other people that can follow up. It's just them. And they need to also be doing all these jobs, all these services. So we made sure to price ourselves, I think, in the right spot that, it's approachable for everyone to choose whatever plan they feel most comfortable with.
Yeah, and when you consider a bottle of coating, a high-end bottle of coating is $150 to $175, right? So does it, and that's always kind of amazing me about detailing is that ROI calculation is always a little bit of a stretch, I think,
Well, and I think in a lot of cases, and I can totally see it from this point of view, I think they view some of the subscription fees as as a consumer rather than as a business. And so, yeah, like if I saw Netflix jumped up to like $100 a month, I'd be like, what the hell? But that's because I'm looking at it as like a consumer, an individual. But when you think about it from a business aspect, geez, I hope you made at least $100 yesterday. Like it shouldn't be something that's like an overwhelming cost. It should be a fraction. It should be a drop in the bucket compared to what you're making or what you could make on top of that using a software system like this. So that's at least what we've come at it with. And
yeah, I mean,
if be people that won't like it,
if Netflix, provided me an opportunity to make an extra $5,000 a month, I would pay $1,000 a month for Netflix because it's like, paid ads and all that kind of stuff. People are like, well, I don't want to spend $50 a day on ads. I'm like, well, what's your return? Well, I had my return on ad spend was 2.5x. I'm like, so what you're saying is you get $75, extra for every $50 that or whatever that number is. That's not 2.5.
Yeah.
2.5 times $125 for every 50 you spend. I'm like, I'll do that math all day long, right?
Exactly.
So, it's not like Vegas where you get 97% of the money that you put in.
Yeah.
It's a firm.
You know what? For yourself. This past year at SEMA, I went out to the casinos for the first time because, of course, Grant was with us.
Yeah, Grant. I have a man crush on Grant, by the way. He gives some of the best hugs in the industry. If anybody, next time you see him at an event, make sure you get a hug from Grant, and I'll tell him.
Get a hug, and he'll give it gladly. But of course, Grant, he is like the master of blackjack. So he's like, we're going out to the casinos. And all I did, I've never played blackjack. I just sat next to Grant, and he just told me what to do. I walked away with $700.
Nice.
I was so excited. I was like, Vegas is amazing. This is the place where you make money.
That's great. I think I played the nickel slots one time and I got like 100. I think I made $50 on nickel slots, which is a lot. It was like 1,000 to 1. And then that was it. That was the last time I gambled. I'm just not a gamble. I like a sure thing. I think I ROI everything. So I got to make sure that that's good to go. So any other advice for detailers, especially young people? How old are you? You're like 27, 28?
29,
pushing 30.
Glory.
That's awesome. I don't know. 20s are, I had we got married early, had my first kids when I was in my mid 20s. And so, yeah, 29 doesn't seem that is still super young for an old guy. But yeah. I know there's a lot of people that are kind of trying to, in that age group, getting into the detailing industry, getting into their own businesses. Any advice for those young people? Because I know it's super intimidating, especially today, right? Like you as a 29-year-old are a rarity for, someone that owns 2 of her own vehicles. I'm sure you have your house, you have, you're doing your own thing. And so what can we learn from you especially as a young person?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers. And, of course, any of the opportunities that I've been granted are, of course, the path was paved by my parents. And, I can't thank them enough for all the support that they've given me and the encouragement and just the general belief that they've had in me. But at least from my very short career so far, I would say the most important thing, for us, and I think for other people too, is not being afraid to just put yourself out there. Be okay with being your brand. Put your face out there, because at the end of the day, people want to do business with people. And the more that you can humanize yourself and the more that you can connect with people, the more business you're going to have, and the richer that business is going to be, because they'll keep coming back for more. It's not just like a transactional thing. Give me your car. There's it back. I did a service. Bye. It's let me get to know you. Let me show you my shop. Let me show you the people that I work with. And I think that is just so valuable to take into business.
Yeah. Detailing's a relational business, and everybody thinks it's a transactional business, and it's not. It's just like realtors and, pretty much anybody that needs to establish that one-to-one relationship with the individual customers. That's what keeps them coming back. And I mean, if you're doing coatings and PPF and film and vinyl and all that, like, these guys are spending a crap ton of money with you. And, the long-term value, lifetime customer value can be, I mean, if you think about it, if you have a customer for 20 years, it could be $100,000 worth of work, right? Like,
yeah.
It's, depending on how they run their business. But yeah, I think it's important to point out what you said, where yes, you have, you've had some opportunities from your parents. However, you took advantage of those opportunities. You have the drive and the knowledge and the will.
For sure. It's
make the most of it.
A bit of a balancing act to just kind of be proud of the work that I've done and the dedication that I've had, without crossing over the line of thinking I did it all myself, because none of us do it by ourselves, and none of it is in a vacuum. There's always, supporters that we have, and I've had two of the best supporters that I could possibly ask for, with my parents, and especially with starting this business. They were supportive from day one. They put a lot of money into this business to get us off the ground. And they needed to pay us like minimum wage at the beginning of this when we had no customers.
Yeah.
And so, that was money out of their pockets, and we couldn't have done it without them and without their encouragement. And obviously my dad's entire knowledge base of business from his long career. So yeah, definitely, I haven't done this by myself, but definitely still proud of what we've accomplished.
Yeah. And you should be. The fact that you're willing to work, there's so many people that come from, relative affluent families that would say, like, I'm not going to work for nothing. You need to fund the business and fund my whatever lifestyle that I happen to have, right? Like, the fact that you've worked up from that and to use that as a springboard, I think that it's important to realize that everybody has different opportunities, but there are opportunities out there. You have to actually take them, be willing to make sacrifices and do the best that you can. So, well, this has been super fun.
Yeah,
go ahead. You keep going.
No, I was going to make a stupid joke. I was selling stuff in my house. At the beginning, I was like on eBay every day. I'm like, who wants this lamp? Like,
nice.
Extra money.
That's an awesome part of the story, though. Like, that's something that I think people would look at your situation, right? Especially now. Like, let's fast forward past all the 3 or 4 years to where you weren't driving a Porsche and a new Bronco. Because I think people sometimes judge us based on what we look like today, right? Like what our life looks like today. I've built multiple businesses over the last 25 plus years, but like, when I've also made no money. I've had years where we were upside down when we did our taxes, which is not a great place to be. But over time you build those things, and I'm very excited for you to be 29 years old and to be as far as you are, because of the work ethic that you have. Like that, you could do anything you want, whether, and that's really, I think that's really cool. So I'm really impressed with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, well, this has been awesome. We had a couple of technical things, but this is really not that big a deal. It's not your fault. It's just part of the deal. So I appreciate you taking the time. How do people find out more about, Kris and You're Able and, learn more about that stuff?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, you'reable.com. We actually have our live chat right on the website too. So if you want to chat with us, you can message us through there. You can also set up video calls with me and Taylor anytime by either using the book a demo button or the book a live Q&A button. We try to put ourselves out there as much as we can. Definitely check out our Instagram page. We have a lot of marketing going on in there now, and it's exciting. So you can check us out on Instagram. I think it's just at You're Able app. and then also on Facebook. And then if you're a user and you haven't been added to either of our private Facebook groups, definitely reach out. We have 2 private groups, one for our Pro and Enterprise users, one for our Basic and Express users. Those are highly active groups. We love them. It's an awesome community, and we definitely want to get you added in there.
Yeah, because that's users supporting users, right? Like that,
Exactly.
There's little tips and tricks and stuff that you do, and so that way it's not always just coming from you guys. And if you want to watch more of Your Stories, they are on YouTube, right? So search for Your Story on YouTube and check some of those out because those are awesome. So, well, thanks so much, Kris.
Thank you.
And I guess the next, unless you come do a race up here, I'll probably see you at SEMA next. Is probably the next time we see you. But
yeah, probably. I'll have to get out to Yellowstone sometime soon.
well, we have no kids here anymore, so the house is wide open. Yeah, so there's plenty of room. So come stay.
Get your one-stop success solution at detailersroadmap.com today.